Good morning, everybody. Good afternoon, my friends in Europe. It is Friday, April 4th, 2025. This is Option Pit Live. I am Mark Sebastian, your only option, and I am joined by Licia J. Leslie, the Queen of the Candles, Chief Technical Analysis here at Option Pit. And Licia, as we open up, we've got two big headlines. One, non-farm payrolls. Top line pretty good. Bottom, the top line. So total gains in employment pretty good, and the increase in unemployment rate shows people entering the workforce. So pretty interesting play there. But I think the bigger news this morning is retaliatory tariffs from China. When that news came out, we watched futures that were already down, but nothing like yesterday. We quickly dropped another 100 points, 120 points. Since the bottoming of that news, and the bottom happened, 1 second here. Bottom happened almost exactly at like 6:30. Between 6:30 and 6:35, we got a nice little move higher, and now we're kind of starting to, grind higher. VIX immediately pre-market off that pop shot its way to 45. That'll be the headline number they give us. The real number, because VIX and S&P options on SIBO quote 23 hours and 15 minutes a day. If you have a professional license, specific type of licensing with SIBO and specific access, you can trade overnight, just like S&P futures. And VIX has the same optionality. And so, but those markets are really wide in the non-regular hours. So when we get a big S&P move like this, VIX options widen out. Market makers don't know exactly what to do. And pre-market, you've seen the VIX now 2 times in the last 8 months have this out of bounds move pre-market. And then we're going to see, kind of where it really opens. The last time we saw a move similar to this pre-market, August of 2024. We had a print all the way to 66 pre-market, and VIX opened at 39. So I think we're kind of due for a mini version of that. My take, we're going to open about where we're currently at, around 36. But either way, what they're telling you is, they don't like what they see. So many of you are asking, when is the bottom? When is the bottom?
When or where?
When or where and what level?
When and where?
Now, I have a full game plan for spotting the bottom that I'm going to go through during Delta Strike. Now you're saying, well, what's Delta Strike? Delta Strike is my flagship service that I run at Option Pit. And it was our 15th anniversary on Wednesday. Happy anniversary, Option Pit. Of course, the last 7+ have been much better than the first 8, because that was when we got Licia. But the first 8 were pretty good. Andrew joining me after my first year. But it's my flagship product, and I'm opening it up free for everybody through today. So we gave it to people free on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Wednesday, I put out a trade in Gap that made 340%. Thursday, I was looking at a trade. It was bullish. And needless to say, I said, as much as I like this trade, if I'm not 100% certain that it's a great idea, all right, I didn't say 100% certain it's going to win. If I'm not 100% certain that it's a great idea, I'm not going to do the trade, right? There's a big difference between certainty of winning and having an edge. And when I trade in Delta Strike, we use big money flow to help us find an edge. The Gap trade, guess what? I saw a big trader put up a bear position Wednesday during the day. And then, lo and behold, Thursday when we gapped open, Gap is down $4. There's my 340%. I didn't see that same opportunity on Thursday, so no trade. Now, today, with us down 2.2%, and everything happening, and I feel like most of the news out, I'm going to be able to tell you when I see a bottom forming. But I didn't bring Licia here, our chart analyst just to sit here and nod and agree with me. I brought her here because she run obviously as our chief technical trader, our head of technical analysis, the queen of the candles. She's going to give some insights on some levels that we're watching in the S&P and the NASDAQ. So, Licia, what levels are you seeing? Where are you kind of looking to potentially? I'm not holding you to it. Don't worry. Where are you looking to potentially start accumulating some positions, both on the downside and the upside?
Congratulations on that fantastic trade.
Hey,
I share my screen here.
9,000 of the April 19, 17, or 21, 19 put spreads that I spotted in order to trade with.
Yes, phenomenal trade. And I have to say that gap chart at the time was looking really bullish, which is crazy because to me, all the charts were looking bullish. If you read Profits and Pumps, I went out on a limb and said, I am very bullish. But I did not have this downtrend line in. Everyone on your Qs, on your S&P, everything.
Licia, you need to share your screen.
I should
there we
be.
go. Okay. There we go.
That's Andrew's screen.
That's Andrew's screen. As much as we love Andrew. There we go.
Everyone put this downtrend line in. Once we clear that, and the real rule is 3 days above or below a trend line. So you want to see a close 3 times beyond that resistance. And I was very bullish here without this trend line. Had I had that in there, I would have said, we need to clear this, and then I am bullish. And that was my mistake. So put that trend line in there. We need that. But look at here's the ES 5-minute. We are 100 points off the low exactly here. Now, as I was saying, Mark, the jobs, they were looking for 140,000. We had 228. So
good number.
Before the tariff talk, that would have been inflationary. Now we're recessionary talking. It's good news, right? And am I wrong to look at it that way?
I think it's good news, but
right,
employment is generally backward looking. It is interesting that the unemployment rate went up.
It did,
which surprised me, and that shows you there's more people working there's more people looking for work, and maybe some people working into entering the workforce that weren't there.
Right.
So it's a double-edged sword, the unemployment rate.
Yeah.
But unemployment rate going up with a big jobs number, not a bad thing.
Exactly. It means our economy is looking good, right?
At least it was 4 months ago when people made hiring decisions that currently are, hitting now. So yes, out to in January, people felt pretty good about the economy is the way I would interpret this employment report.
Okay.
Because that's, you start thinking I'm going to hire in January. I want to hire someone in January. Maybe, you finally get them in officially on the rolls maybe in March. So a little bit backward looking, but yeah, not a bad number.
Right. I think that's helping the bounce, quite honestly, in my opinion. I have like a pretty good, if we decide to revisit those lows and really trade lower, I think my main support is 51.1760 on SPX. So say 51.18. Light support at 52.46. So that's what I was looking at. We have not a whole ton of levels in between there, I have to say, on the SPX. On the Qs, we didn't quite trade to my support level yesterday at 447.40. And this morning, we're Pretty well above my 434.12. Those are the levels I'd be watching there. 434.12 on Qs.
Yeah, we're not at 434.12. We're kind of in no man's land between those levels.
Exactly. So kind of tells us we can go either way today. Again, another wild day where we can rip back and forth, right?
Yes.
Interesting, bonds are higher. Flight to quality.
Yeah, I mean, if you think that if the stock market's down 10% and the bond market's paying 4%, what are you going to do if you don't like the stock market?
Right. So TLT is getting close to that 94.94 resistance. It's up to 93.89 this morning. I also thought it was interesting. Gold has been rallying so hard during this whole pre-announcement, and now that it's out, it's stalled. It's stalling. Thought that was interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I have on the charts.
Interesting. Another area that we're kind of watching closely is, I've been kind of pointing out, the Treasury Secretary made a comment. He said the market isn't having a MAGA problem, it's having a MAG 7 problem. And he's not entirely lying. Now, the market's definitely having a MAGA problem, but there's a MAG 7 problem too in this market. And that's really been the key. And so kind of my point along all this, so it's in the last 3 months, so basically call it since January 1st, you're thinking, oh, all the world has ended, right? The Dow Jones Industrial Average is down 5% on the year in 3 months. That's
right.
Not the end of the world. S&P down 9%, 9.19% on the year. Now, from the top, it's down more than that. We're not talking about the top. We're talking about since the beginning of the year when we were about, call it 50.
Yeah.
But the Qs and MGK are down 13 and 15% respectively.
Yes.
MGK is the 90 largest stocks in the S&P 500. What is the denominator? What is the factor that causes increasingly more pain? Exposure to those top 8 names.
Right.
So until those names can find a floor, I don't think the market can find a floor. But when is that floor? Gonna share in Delta Strike today.
Be there, everyone. Noon.
Yeah, you're a fool if you're not
noon
there.
Eastern.
It's free at noon Eastern. Join me. Speaking of joining me, let's bring in our own Viking of Volatility, the vicar of the VIX, Andrew T. for Two-Way Trades, Giovinazzi. Good morning, Andrew T. How are you doing today?
It is a pleasure to be here. It is a pleasure.
All right, so Andrew, you heard us going through a lot of stuff, namely the tariffs and the unemployment sell-off, and then you heard me talking about kind of the price action of the VIX pre-market. What's your take on the price action we're seeing this morning?
Well, I mean, the China thing, do you feel like that was a surprise? Now, I think it took the market by surprise a little bit, but at least again, now news is out. The news is out. It's just what's the next?
I mean, being surprised by the Chinese tariffs is like me being surprised my son talked back to me.
So it's definitely, again, I think this is bringing in more uncertainty. I don't think it brings in less. I think VIX finally decided to make a move. We talked about it yesterday. Felt like the VIX move was a little underwhelming. There was a lot of hedging or taking off, basically, taking profits. And this morning we were down another 4% at one point, 3.5%.
Down 2.5 right now.
And now all of a sudden, if you are these funds that are aggressively selling vol because it's always worked,
folks, when he says selling vol, what he means is selling options to collect the premium decay, collecting time decay. Yeah. So when let's say a covered call, that is actually you selling volatility. So when Andrew says selling vol, he means selling put options, selling call options, either as a covered call, cash secured put, or maybe some more complex trade. So yeah, funds that have been selling vol, selling options. Continue, Andrew. Just wanted to give a little clarity there.
Right, and it's work because we've always had these bounces, right? And right now, when you start, okay, well now we have these tariffs in play. They're clearly trying to drive interest rates down. Again, how's that going to work? I don't know, but interest rates are lower. But it is making, how do all the analysts figure out what corporate earnings are going to be? So we've cast a pretty good pall of uncertainty as far as how the economy will function with the tariff regime. But at this point, they're trying to radically, as quick as they can, reduce the budget deficit.
Well, I'll be interested to see reduce the budget deficit, or are they going to, on the back end, let's say this is $3 trillion worth of tariffs. On the back end, are they going to give away $1.5 trillion in tariffs, or $1.5 trillion in, monetary and government stimulus? I'm wondering whether that comes out the back end. And
all of these things, and I think that's another.
Can't resist.
Right. I think it's going to, could they screw it up? Yep. I mean, I don't have a lot of faith in the politicians anymore to do anything, but
what?
Either way, from a volatility
How did you become so jaded, Andrew?
Huh?
I said, what? How did you become so jaded? Politicians are a beacon of light.
They are.
Oh boy.
But from a
black light.
From just a straight volatility view, now all of a sudden, we're in a regime of 2-3% moves, and I think that's kind of going to be the norm for at least a little bit. Why should it stop at this point? Europe has another announcement, or Xi and Trump have a phone call, and all of a sudden they both, then we're up 2.5-3% there.
We have April 9th as a date, don't we?
Yeah, there's April 9th and April 10th. So in the meantime, today's the 4th, so that's sometime midweek next week. There is not a lot of support for stocks unless there's different kind of news. Now, the employment news was good, but it's hard to think that, VIX is going to stay up here and it's going to go back and forth, probably bounce a lot off the 30 handle would be my guess. And we'll see how aggressive traders sell vol into this. But if you're short a lot of vol and
short a lot of options,
short a lot of options, and like Trump doesn't move and Xi doesn't move, I think that will make people nervous past the date. And then all of a sudden, it won't surprise me to see another little wave of selling come in, at least test the lows we had today.
Yeah, the stock, and I kept saying this, the way they priced this thing out was that it was going to end today. And so I'm wondering what kind of news drop. Now, next week, so we've got all this news. We're down how many S&P points are we currently down? We're down over 400 S&P points from Wednesday's close. So 2 days, 6.6%, something like that, Yeah. And the option prices in the S&P 500 for next week are lower than where they were on Wednesday. For next week are lower where Thursday and Friday were priced. So there's still a little bit of a calming effect, but we have seen we are seeing a nice reflation of premiums for next week. So that narrative may be shifting a little bit, Andrew, to your point.
Yeah. And like would it surprise you if SPX ripped 300 points on anything next week? No.
No. And
it also wouldn't surprise me if we tickled 5,000 SPX as well, just because it's very easy for the market to free fall like this when there's no bid.
I would not be surprised if we saw both. How about that?
Exactly.
Now,
and there you go. That's why 30 VIX will be a floor for at least until the 9th. That's my prediction.
Just as a reminder, the option prices may stay a little elevated because Powell speaks at 11:25. Fed Bar speaks at noon, and Fed Waller speaks at 12:45. So maybe we need to get all those guys out of the way, and then watch your premium come down. Or
hey, Licia, do you think they're going to have one message?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you may stay elevated until they're finished.
Yeah, they might. I think it really kind of matters what happens on the open. I thought there was a possibility that we gap down on Thursday and then rip. The bounce off that bottom, I think, potentially does set up for, maybe we see some people look at where prices open today and start option shopping, if you will, Licia.
Oh.
And once again, I kind of want to remind everybody that our anniversary our 15th anniversary, happy anniversary, all of us. I don't think it could happen at a better time. On Wednesday, it was our 15th anniversary, April 2nd. And it just happens to line up with Trump and his crazy his tariff announcement. Then we get to be live with everyone Thursday to kind of walk people through, close a huge win. And now today, I'm going to be sharing with you guys 3 things. 1, how am I going to find a bottom? And are we close? 2, I'm going to give you one long-term play that I think could do 500%. Maybe it only does 50, maybe it only does 100. And, there's even an outside shot that it doesn't go great. But it's a shot. But I believe this play has the opportunity to potentially make that 500% return. Finally, I'm going to use big money flow to spot names that are finally in that oversold territory, that big money is saying, hey, it's time for us to go long. And I'm going to spot a name potentially that still has a lot more downside. And there are some of those names floating around out there. So if you'd like to join me, then click the link and register, because we had over 400. We had 400 people yesterday. I'd like to get 500 people there today. That would be great.
That would be awesome.
So, Andrew, with all that has happened, you are the king of two-way trades. All right. So I'd like you to get, we've got, you also are the king of owning vehicles. So what I was thinking was, could you give us a little demo on or a little discussion on one of 2 ideas? One, how do you use VIX to guide S&P decisions? And then my second question for you, because I've got my answers and I'm going to kind of explain what I think later. How do you think a 37 VIX affects large block order flow so big calls and put purchases in individual equity names?
So I have 2 questions there.
No, you can pick one.
Oh, okay.
You can pick one.
I think vol this high, you're going to see less flow in general. So you're going to see less big numbers. So if you do see a number like 1,000, 2,000 contracts, that actually is going to, I think that would be almost more conviction because they're buying into such high vol. So if you're looking at flow like that, and you see those numbers, I think that's somebody with a little more conviction than normal when you're going to see that, when you see that kind of, volume go up.
I agree with you there.
And so when you see that stuff now, and Another thing too is like we're now down 100 points almost SPX or 1,000 points for the top. I mean, 800 points or something. So like all of a sudden, options that look kind of out of the money 6 months from now, a year from now, you're always looking at right now. Right, we have a lot of volatility, but don't forget, think about how things are going to look 6 to 9 months down the road. So when you're trading, right, you're trading what's in front of you for short-term options, but there is potential for opportunity down the road a little bit.
Yeah, and that's my goal. That 500% kind of target winner, that is not going to be an option that has a week to expire. It's going to be something long dated. But the good news is, if you join today, you and I will follow this option over the course of the next few weeks and months as it plays out. So you will get communication from me around this play. Now, Licia, I want to give you kind of a similar question. When we've got this kind of turmoil, how does that affect your use of candles and pitchforks? I mean, do you make any pivots on your strategy?
I always rely on that confirmation. Whenever I see a change in trend candle, that's where we find our opportunity. A candle that'll point out this end of this downtrend, the end of this uptrend. I always wait till the following day for a confirmation. This kind of market, the whipsaw, the back and forth, the confirmation is more important than ever. And the other thing, and if you have made money on a trade, take that money immediately. Oh my goodness.
Take those exits.
Take the money.
I would concur. Tighten your exits. That is probably the easiest thing you can do on both sides is to tighten up exits. And the reason why you can tighten up exits is because we're getting these big gaps. And so, when you own a put or a call, if you time it right, and big money flow, as Andrew said, big money flows buying calls today in an individual equity. That is some conviction.
Yes.
And so if you come in on Monday and you're up 80% on that call that you decide to follow with big money flow, don't wait for the 100.
Yes.
Take the money and smile. Go play basketball. Go play around a golf.
Absolutely. And even 25%. If you're up 25, take the money. This market turns around so fast. Take your money.
Agreed. All right. Speaking of taking our money, it is 9:30. The bell just rang. We're currently opening down we're going to open down about 135. Good for 2.5%. VIX, the VIX is up on less than half the move from yesterday, and it's up just as much as it was yesterday. So that tells you how things have changed this morning a little bit. But what are your thoughts on how things play out for the day? And if you get this wrong, we're going to hold you. We're gonna call you out on it all weekend. All right. So, Andrew, what are you thinking for today?
I think we finished the day down. VIX will finish probably near 40 on the day, I think.
Okay.
Because there won't be really any real relief. So we'll see, but we'll be moving around.
So Andrew is the no relief rally.
Right.
Licia, what are your thoughts on the day?
It's so hard to say. Watch your 5 minute. You'll get a lot of opportunity back and forth day trading in and out there. And your candles and your trend lines work on the 5 minute. I think there's tons of opportunity to do that. I'm watching 52.5 here on SPX, and then below there 51.17, 51.18. And that downtrend line. That's all I got. It's not pretty.
All right. We're not just going to close down 130 points. All right. This either is the kind of that traders trying for a form of bottom day, and we get a lot more, and we get some fun upside, or we're going to get to the overnight lows. What I would say is 52.60 is not where we land. Now, I'm going to tell you exactly where I think we're going for the rest of the day. Today at noon, if you want to join me in Delta Strike, absolutely free of charge. And I'm going to be hunting potentially for another 300+% winner. But heck, I'll take 50 like I just said, because you've got to be aggressive in this market. All right, it is 9:32. We're going to turn into pumpkins here. So we will see you next Friday, as we do every Friday at 9 a.m. Eastern time. So for Andrew Giovinazzi, the Viking of Volatility, and of course, Licia J. Leslie, the queen of the candles, although I just call her queen. I am Mark Sebastian. I am your only option. Have a great morning.
You know how the financial world goes. Here comes the buzzkill. Please make sure to take some time to read this boring disclaimer. We will owe you one.